There we go. Hey, sorry.
Audio.
I don't know why it defaults to mute
Do we got?
every time. So
So everything's working. It was just
yep.
okay.
All right. Once again, welcome to the Subluminous cast. We will try and remember not hit that mute button next time. I don't know. I think it defaults to mute for some reason. We've got an exciting stream today. We're gearing up for what we're calling our Halloween weekend. And if you haven't heard of that, it's because we just invented it. We've got a book launch of serialized chapters that are going to be coming out on Kindle Vella on Friday. So we'll be releasing it one chapter per week on Kindle Vella, and you'll be able to get the first few chapters for free starting Friday, and then we'll release a chapter a week. You getting some bad news? What?
No, just
Uh,
that
TJ's making faces.
that bad news that's already over.
Oh yeah. All
I'm
right.
not over it.
Move on, buddy. All right. So we're gearing up for Halloween weekend. So Friday is going to be the launch of Cardinal Point, which we did a chapter last week, and we'll do another chapter for Cardinal Point on Halloween. So we're going to do a special Halloween vidcast, and we're going to continue with our Wednesday vidcast as well as a follow up. But we wanted to do a couple extra spooky things,
Might
and
be shorter, but it won't be longer.
yeah, yeah. So and then a couple of things. We've got kind of a little bit of a new format. So we're still going to start with the read, but I did want to kind of give everybody a rundown of what's going to be on the show today. So we'll be talking a little bit about the Kindle Vella launch. We're going to do the read, which will be another horror book, kind of spooky content. It's called A Sovereign in Hell, which is a book that I've been working on for a while. We'll do the first read from A Sovereign in Hell, and it's about demons and time travel and all kinds of other stuff. And then what you were going to say something, TJ?
Just I've been kind of waiting to hear some actual. I've heard a lot about this story. We've been talking about it. I've been kind of excited to get some like finished
Some finished content.
shit.
Yeah. This is the never finished book.
Yeah.
All right, and so then a couple other things we've got going on. We are doing a new segment called character analysis, and we're going to do that after the read. So we're going to talk about a character from the read, whatever one of the characters from the chapter, and we'll sort of discuss the the reasons for that character, how we decided to come up with them, and that sort of thing. And then let's see. We're going to be talking a little bit about AI and companies that are trying to use AI to publish fiction. So having AI write fiction. So you'll get to hear all of our opinions on that. And then
we got some opinions.
yeah, and
I got
then
some opinions.
TJ's got another Halloween weekend announcement. So he's got another. He's got a new show coming up that is connecting true crime to the occult, and I'm going to be helping out with it. But it'll be sort of him leading that show, and I'll just sort of be color commentary, and asking him questions and stuff, because he's kind of the occult expert, it's always really fun for me to talk to TJ about occult stuff, because I'll just sort of mention something in passing, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's from the Book of Enoch," and he'll just like randomly give me some passage about where it came from.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff, we write is kind of like influenced by this stuff, and I think you did say true crime and occult.
Yeah, true crime and occult. So it's real crimes, and then occult. I guess the tie into occult. And then that's sort of it for the I guess for the format of the show. That's the segments, and we might come up with something else to talk about, but we'll try to stick to those guidelines. So I think we're ready to jump into it. You ready for the read, TJ?
I'm ready. A
All right.
sovereign in hell.
Yeah. So this is a sovereign in hell. Give me like 10 seconds to find exactly where I'm going.
All right. And this is, I'd say, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, kind of a bit of a bunch of genres in this, from what I've heard.
Yes. Yeah. So it's yeah. How do I describe this? This is started out as just cool ideas that I thought would be fun to write about, and then I started tying them all together into a book, and so that's sort of how we got here.
Yeah. And I'm I'm ready to listen. Try to fill this dead air while you
Yeah,
read
you
your
feel.
chapter.
Yeah, sorry, keep filling the dead air because I'm. That's
Oh,
the other part.
well, let me ask the chat. Who did you all vote for? Let's keep it light. Just kidding. Who will you be voting for? What are all your political views? How do you feel about the red pill? How do you feel about women? How do you feel about men?
Uh,
How do you feel about men that are women?
all right. So before TJ gets us in trouble, I think I've found it. And actually, I realized that part of this is going to be a little bit of a short read. So I think what I may end up doing, I may end up reading. This may be a long read because yeah. So I'm going to end up reading two pieces because I'm going to read the introduction and which is kind of short, and then I'm going to read the rest of it. So that was I guess my issue was I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to read because I showed up to the vidcast late, um, and so
Yeah,
that's how it goes sometimes. And then
we will.
the other thing is I forgot my glasses today, so double boomer.
Double boomer.
Uh,
That you need glasses and you don't have them is the double boomer.
yeah, exactly. Or if I had them, I would have like the wrong ones. I brought my readers instead of my prescription glasses or something like that.
I brought my night glasses.
Yeah. So let me see if I can zoom in real quick.
I wish I had some fart sounds on this sound pad to play in the meantime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as I'm slowly zooming in.
All right.
Okay,
Here we go.
a sovereign in hell. The serpent in Genesis is an obvious reference to my cock. It's the best part of the Bible. More books should begin like that. Lucifer. Tautology without end. Amen. Amen. Lucifer stands in his temple, naked in the dawn, and I know it is dawn because Lucifer is naked. His hair is golden and smooth skin, a shade between copper and silver. About him is a fire bright halo, and in its center, his gray steel eyes. All is at his whim, because this is his hell. His bright sun is set on the low central temple apex. The surrounding tall buildings and apartments of old hell cast long shadows outward and beyond. The sun is always on the horizon and never above, except here in Lucifer's garden. Only those close to the temple receive light. Beyond is shadow, and beyond that, darkness, and beyond that, the sticky ink of the sublumin. His sycophants live in the shadows, their permanent reminder that he is the Dawn King and the center of all things. You deserve some background regarding the task assigned to me by Lucifer, overlord of hell. I am an I am a menagerine from the menagerie of evil souls, the worst of humanity. We are stripped of our identity, tasked with writing the histories of hell. I personally chronicle my Lord's existence and capture his words. And so I write this present prelude, not quite chapter zero, or a beginning, or even an end, but instead a convenient place for introductions. Our books are filigree to entertain or bore the darkest heart, volumes written by the worst souls humanity can provide, though our evil is small when judged against even the lowest of native hellions. My final task is maintaining proofs that hell exists. Lucifer so loves his proofs, works of science, art, and language bound together in a kind of library dedicated to this existence. Incidentally, I have no such extant works regarding heaven, other than Dharmic and Abrahamic writings and the leftovers of more ancient religions. God, it seems, and heaven have escaped my explorations and my faith. I will note that surely my sources are lying, at least some of the time. We are all known liars here. My proofs of hell are also surely touched by my madness. And though I have no knowledge of my humanity, in all likelihood, I was a known madman, murderer, and worse, when I was alive, and carried the trappings of a man. So lies the mad. No, so lies and madness are the provenance of hell. But there is truth here. For instance, am I merely witnessing my own personal hell? I'm skeptical because this hell is considerably more complicated than necessary to punish my tiny soul. That, at least, is an odd comfort. Incidentally, it is also a fact of sorts. Wait, incidentally, it is also a fact of sorts. For surely my personal beliefs don't offer substantial proof of hell, or lend credence to its realness. And so I believe hell is real because it is real to me, and frankly, it's easier to acquiesce. I continue with the brief daily solace provided by my master, Lucifer himself, as I record his morning dictations. If there were an easy job, it would be this morning ritual. His words distract me for a time each day. I don't dare say we enjoy our time together. That would be too informal. But I believe the relationship provided us both a respite. I assumed we would continue like this into eternity, or so it seemed, until this morning. Now Lucifer is gone, and I remain chronicling the nothing of his absence, the menagerie. You want to talk about that before I go on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, firstly, what like is your mind state when you're coming up with this? Like, is this like you personally questioning things? Or are you just trying to make the real world a little more fantastical and
Uh,
not really?
I like to think of interesting characters, and I like to think about how it is fun to take on the aspect of interesting characters. So, one of the things about this book is that the format is written where when you read it, it feels like you can get into the mind of the character. So, typically, I'm doing a lot of first person stuff. And so, while you're reading, what I want is for someone to read and think about if they could identify with this character, even if they're a terrible person or a superhero or a wimp or whatever it is. Because to me, that's the enjoyable part of the book.
Yeah.
And so, from a strategy standpoint, I want a baseline of characters that are written in a way where it's easy to fall into that part and think about what they're thinking about.
All right. And the menagerie is kind of a chronicler
Yeah,
type thing.
so there's a group called the Menagerie, and they're all these evil people that have been stripped of their humanity, and so all that's left is this sort of essential soul, and this is sort of their punishment in hell or whatever. And so it's like the worst person that humanity can offer is like a lowly worker in hell that just has to do like all the boring like menial like secretarial tasks and stuff that
Yeah.
that hell wants them to do. And so and then this particular one is sort of one of the menagerie that stands above all others. And so he doesn't have a name, but he's sort of got a title now, and so he is the menagerine, sort of the first of the lowest.
Okay. And do you want to say like sort of they're kind of part to play in the world, or do you want to leave that kind of?
Yeah, so whenever I think, at least from the structure of the book, the idea is that whenever a menagerine shows up or one of the menagerie show up, they are talking about some important demon of hell or devil or whatever. So the idea is going to be, I think, or at least the way that it's working out now is, for the most part, if you're sort of human or whatever, you're going to get your sort of first person slash narrator treatment. But if you are a demon or some otherworldly being, you're going to get a chronicler. So their stories are only told through these chronicle characters, and so that's what the menagerie is.
All right. So there's no to the I guess the part of the first question I had. There's no like crisis of faith you have. This is just something you're writing. Fantastic fantasy type.
Yeah, no, I think I write it because I don't have a crisis of faith, but I do think that
That makes to me that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. So what I do have is an ununderstanding of what reality is, even if you have faith. So you can believe in something but not know exactly how it works, right? Like evolution happens even if you whether you believe it or not, right? And so the idea is that if there's like a supernatural thing that's happening, we might not know exactly what that means. And I think that's where fiction sort of thrives, right? Like that's what mutants are to X-Men, right? The
Yeah.
the X factor. And so you pontificating on the unknown, I think, is where a lot of good ideas come from. So this is sort of my book to do that.
Yeah. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Question. I have my faith is like pretty strong, but I have a lot of questions, and I like to do exactly what you seem to be doing. There's a lot of material in there, just trying to figure out what the hell the truth of the whole history of
Yeah.
everything is.
Yeah. And so this is, this, if this book were to be, I don't know, if this book were to go beyond like itself, then there's, sort of a whole system of beliefs and how that, like Tolkien had all, his cimmerils or whatever, the
Yep.
flowers of light or whatever, and Arda and all the other different places and stuff like that. And so this would sort of be uh, live in some sort of universe where of my mind where I've sort of created all these things. So it's not based on any sort of actual like Lucifer story, and it's not trying to take any sort of biblical moment as real. Like this is very fictional, but the idea is that I wanted to come up with a way to reach into like dharmic and Abrahamic religions and discuss those things and use them as a backdrop and then explain why reality is the way that it is to us.
Yeah,
Um,
well, this has been not that you're not original, but this is like Milton's Lucifer. Satan is like a completely like his own fabrication, along with
yeah, yeah,
the nine circles of hell, but
yeah,
with a little bit of, uh, I guess you'd call it Christian mythos in
yes,
it.
yeah, and that was a big inspiration too. So, I mean, really, any sort of the Luciferian myths is kind of an inspiration. And it's really this first chapter sort of jumps straight into Lucifer, right? Like talking about Lucifer being naked, and
Yeah.
got a quote about his cock, like in the first like sentence or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
But I
but
can't say fuck within 7 seconds on YouTube.
yeah, not in the first 7 seconds on YouTube. But once you get into it, you can say whatever you want. But yeah, so but the idea there was like, yeah, I also have all these Lucifer quotes and stuff. And so the idea there was like, okay, well, I want to create my version of Lucifer, the Lucifer that I haven't seen. And so that's sort of where, and that's kind of I don't know, as a writer, I think that's really fun.
And if I understand it right, he's not exactly the villain of it, but he's not like the protagonist, but he's a
Yeah, he is the substrate of the story. He's the missing MacGuffin or whatever, I guess.
yeah.
So at the end of this thing, like, the menagerie says, Lucifer's missing, and that's sort of where we leave it. And then Lucifer's absence is sort of the cause of, or related to, all the things that happen in the rest of the book.
Yeah. Is there more to read, or do you want to talk about how kind of far along this is?
Yeah, so we're at what, we're almost at 2 o'clock. So I have this other chapter which is a little bit longer. It's sort of a normal sized chapter. And I didn't know if we wanted to read that. It's got a couple of things that if we get into it, I kind of want to talk about some other stuff. So I don't know if we want to wait for it, but I also really like this chapter. So I don't know. It's really up to you.
Yeah, that one was super short, so I think another one is
Okay. All right.
just fine.
Now this one's a little bit longer. And this is sort of my this is gets into some historical fiction. So we're gonna go from Lucifer to like World War II. So it's gonna be a little bit of a weird jump.
Fuck yeah, this is the one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, cool. So this is called Children of the Rhine, and this is this will be the first chapter. And also, I was originally going to try like a German accent for this, and we can talk about that because the character is German. But I'm probably just going to read it as normal, and
Just
then
go ahead. If it's cringy, you'll hear me
okay,
snickering back.
all right, all right,
Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
get it. All right, okay. Children of the Rhine, snow blankets that around Mitte forest, my home for the past few days. I can hear the bombing of Königsberg. The explosions are more frequent today, and the Russians are just to the southeast. So no, yeah, I don't think it works.
Yeah, I mean it does.
It's kind of close.
You're
That's
kind of.
based off of my practice.
I feel
Anyway,
like you're. Yeah, just do whatever. I feel like
okay.
you're self.
I think I'm going to read it regularly, and then we'll sort of talk about this German accent thing,
But yeah,
which is it's actually kind of exciting.
part of
But
that was good though. I
yeah,
think.
it's because I've read it like 9 million times. Okay. Snow blankets the Ron Mitahita forest, my home for the past few days. I can hear the bombing of Königsberg. The explosions are more frequent today, and the Russians are just to the southeast. Likely they are hungry and will soon swarm the woods looking for game. It's the biggest army I've ever seen, and there is no way I won't be discovered. I would return to the abandoned farm in Metkithen, but it was completely destroyed 3 days ago. I was lucky to be out hunting, or I would have been killed in the bombing. I dare not draw attention by starting a fire now, but parts of the village and outlying buildings are still burning, and no one seems to be left to put them out. So I've been making what I call my pilgrimage to a smoldering hayloft and enjoying the warmth and the wild boar I left slowly roasting there. The good thing about the war is I have plenty of ammunition and plenty of fire. My Luger and carabiner are both the spoils of war. In all truth, the carabiner is the most accurate rifle I've ever fired. The Germans were almost in full retreat, and now the Germans were almost in full retreat now and getting sloppy. If the Russians surrounded the city, there would be nowhere to run except across the frozen lagoon. The Germans will be trapped. I will be trapped. My brother will be trapped. But that's what I wanted, to kill him before he died a hero. Whatever happens to me afterward, I don't care. I only need to survive long enough to find him. I'm hungry, but I don't dare return for another pilgrimage until nightfall. So I wait and hide and watch. It's cold, but I have my journal to keep me warm. The cover is green cloth. I look at the inked out name, Detlev Becker. My grandfather wrote it when he gave me the book as a child. Later, I scratched out Becker and took my father's last name, Ndaye, though by that time I had not seen him in years. In turn, that name was marked out as well, after a fight with my grandfather. It was a relatively minor battle, but I believe it was the first of many. Below the black scribbles, I read the current title, Rhineland Bastard. I wrote it in anger and rebellion, then fear and acceptance, when I learned what it meant to be a bastard. Okay, this is a German word that I don't remember how to pronounce. The Volksgemeinschaft spared no one in my family, but I got the worst when Friedhof found me. I had not seen the Aryan boy in years. He arrived at our farm and handed me a letter from my brother Albert. They had met in Königsberg, which happened to be the city the Russians are marching on right now. Which happens to be the city the Russians are marching on right now. He said, I'm not here on personal business. Your brother asked me to give you this. He handed me a crumpled piece of paper, then said, I'm here because your mother is a whore and you are a bastard. Your grandfather is a traitor and harbored a black soldier for years. And worse, he was French. I will take this farm for myself, and perhaps your mother as well. I have a contract, though. If you sign it, your grandfather can keep his farm. Your mother sadly remains a whore, and your bastard blood will always be tainted. There's nothing I can do about that. Can you read, bastard? I have my father's dark complexion, dark hair, and dark sense of humor. I also have my mother's blue eyes, making it impossible to deny my bastard heritage. Friedhof was a childhood bully to both my brother and I. He was recruited to the Gestapo in 1939, a year before my brother joined the army. Somehow, Albert was able to forgive him for years of torture. I was not. Not even after I stabbed Friedhof in the barn and shot him with his own gun. My gun now. My Luger. I smile at the memory of his death. Friedhof Allemann was a psychopath even as a child, a natural bully. He could instantly find vulnerabilities in others. Now that I think about it, he was well suited to his job. In the contract he gave me, it was agreed that I would volunteer for sterilization. I signed it, standing next to our house. What else could I do? The two others that were with him came out the front door. My mother's clothes had been torn. She wore a sign around her neck, Rostenschande. She had defiled the Aryan race, was a whore, and would be punished regardless of my contract. I was to be the proof. They put us in a car because we were far from town. Friedhof drove him himself. The entire affair took about an hour. There were children with instruments and a group of around 50 people. My kindergarten teacher was there. We marched along the streets like a parade. People laughed and jeered and spat. At the end, they cut my mother's hair off as the children played the song Erica while stomping and clapping during the boom, boom, boom of the drums. My mother and I walked back to the farm. It was relatively quiet the next week, except she couldn't stop crying. I continued to work, and Grandfather Aki continued to brood in silence. I thought we would have some peace until Friedhof came to the farm a few days later. He found me in the barn. I thought he was there to gloat. I would be sterilized the following week, and that seemed like the kind of gloating he would enjoy. Instead, he handed me paperwork and said, "This is my farm, bastard. It's time for you to leave." I replied, "So you're going to kick us out now? I have your contract. You will leave voluntarily this afternoon. I'm purchasing your little farm for a good price. Where's your mother? I have an offer for her too," was his reply. I know that arguing I knew that arguing was impossible. I glanced out the door and saw his motorcycle parked by the barn. I said, "There's a mistake," and pointed at the bottom of the paperwork. Friedhof looked at the document and asked, "Where?" I stabbed him in the neck in one single quick motion, directly into his jugular like Aki taught me when hunting. I whispered, "Coming alone was your mistake." I think he tried to speak, but I must have cut his windpipe as well, because only a hiss came out. He held the papers to his neck, trying to staunch the blood. I shot him in the chest and he passed out relatively quickly, and then stopped breathing shortly after. I looked around. The heavens didn't open up, and Zeus didn't throw any thunderbolts at me. I thought my first German would be harder to kill. I took his Luger and money and motorcycle and left Brule immediately. My reverie breaks and I hear the sound of tanks. I flip through the journal pages. The first few are childish entries about a young life I can't remember. My German grandfather features in several. The rest of the pages I filled out in less than a year. I may have been a bit overzealous at first, so I had to save the last half of the book for my brother's murder. Albert and I have the same father, but Albert's white skin allowed him to enlist in the Heer, claiming that our grandfather is Spanish instead of Senegalese. He said there's been He said he's been marching with the 3rd Panzer Division for a long time now, but I've been tracking him. He was assigned a logistical job moving equipment, goods, and ammunition from Königsberg to the Eastern Front. His letter claims he is a war hero, but he is merely a liar. With any luck, I will kill him before the war does. Glancing at the terse single sentences with trailing dates, I realize now that this book is evidence of my crimes. Considering how few times I've seen police, I can't imagine anyone looking for me. But getting caught with a documented confession would pose a problem. Each brief entry is aligned in neat rows and columns. Mother, public humiliation, killed Friedhof Allemann, left home, escaped Cologne, on the Rhine. Again, I hear the unmistakable rumble of tanks getting closer as I continue to read. Barge north, freight train, drunk swineherd. I remember each of these entries in turn as I incidentally scan the pages. I flip toward the end, frozen bodies on the road, cross at Svetli, smoke from the farmland. I realize now the tanks are coming toward me. Perhaps the Russians are already in the forest, and the Germans are coming to meet them. My hiding place may soon be overrun. I collect my packs and weapons and run deeper into the forest a few meters from the road. I don't want it to be in the open if I encounter anyone. My long trek across Germany has made me wiry and strong. I keep a brisk pace until the light begins to fade, and I must slow to watch my step. I can still hear the troops behind me, and I've put some distance between me and the obvious sound of a panzer group. At some point, I won't be able to outrun them. I decide to hide until they pass and unpack my blanket to cover myself. Regardless, my body temperature drops as I wait. I'm too far away to see them, and I don't want them to see me either, but they are close enough. I can hear voices through the pines, German voices. The road the road is narrow, so my guess is that the tanks are single file, which makes them vulnerable. I have no idea why they would be moving like this with the Russians so close, unless they have some strategy to circle back west and arrive behind the first troops. Surely they have seen the vast horde to the east, but then again, I've always been bad at predicting what Germans will do. I hear the convoy continue past, maybe 200 meters away, and then they stop. I hear the from of an idling line of tanks, then a single gunshot. A moment later, more gunfire, massive gunfire, and rifles, and a machine gun begin to engage. What? What are they firing out on the road on at the road on the forest? On the road in the forest. I hear a tank fire, possibly one in the front. A salvo passes through the woods near me, destroying trees. I can't see, but the urge to look is impossible to ignore. I leave my blanket behind and carry the rifle over my shoulder and the Luger in my hand. I see some flashes as I approach. It lights up the trees. Otherwise, the moon provides the only illumination. Then there's a noise like a deep horn, only it's the loudest sound I think I've ever heard. Reflexively, I cover my ears and turn away. The trees around me look as if they are in daylight. The brightness increases until I have to close my eyes. I can feel heat at my back, and a burning wind, and then it suddenly stops. The light dies and returns to night again. I turn and see fire and smoke, pale orange on the horizon. I start to run towards the swath of burning trees. I make it to the road and see the line of panzers completely destroyed. Bodies lie everywhere. A small group of dead Russians and a large group of dead Germans lie near the front of the line. Some of the soldiers on both sides have been shot, but all of them have been burned. There is a wide conical swath of destruction pointing east. Everything inside the triangle is burned. The road, trees, vehicles, and people are all within the neat geometric lines. At the apex of the triangle lies a Russian officer, headless. His body is the only thing that is unburned. I don't see his head anywhere. My brain races to conceive what destroyed these men in this way. I turn away for the moment, scanning the wreckage for any clues. When I turn back to the Russian at the apex of the triangle, I see a German officer standing next to the body. He nudges the dead Russian with a boot. Reflexively, I hold my Luger at arm's length, but he doesn't seem concerned. He didn't necessarily seem German either, in spite of the uniform. There was something strange about his face. Other. The word came from the mouth of this thing, and it sounded German, but also somehow Russian at the same time, and possibly Polish or Dutch or a dozen other languages. The vibrating noise coming out of his throat was finding the sounds of words as they were spoken. The duration was short, but within that term I heard Anders, Vander, Vandra, Sverver, Vonder, Otter, Alter, Otro. The word was a litany, but singular also, encapsulated. And in my mind, the word was alien. The effect of this strange blending of language made me feel nauseated. I swooned a bit, and he spoke again. This time, though, the sound was less strange. Other. The sound had a slight echo. Huther, thur, her, The thing continued to speak. Tusch, Deutsch, Deutsch, Dutch. Ah, German. You speak German? And several other languages. That's good. It wasn't a question. Somehow it knew I spoke German and Russian, and possibly knew I spoke French, Polish, Swedish, and a little Dutch as well. The nausea was subsiding, but the after effects of the strange language caused my gun hand to shake. The creature that looked like a man glanced at the Luger. Is this a weapon? You don't need this weapon with me. I stared at him. Then the vibrating voice returned. You don't need this weapon with me. Rather, your weapon is useless. I shot him. Nothing happened. He didn't move. He didn't look at the wound. The force of the projectile at close range didn't push him back. The bullet just disappeared into his jacket and never came back out. Then a wave of nausea induced by the strange voice hit me again. I lost consciousness as it said, I am becoming impatient. My brother Albert and I were close in age, or rather, we are close in age, because I haven't killed him yet. Does age work like that? When I kill him, will I eventually be older than he is? Is that what happened when I killed Friedhof? Friedhof was an asshole, a Gestapo asshole. Albert? Well, Albert was an asshole, and also a Rhineland bastard, just like me, but not for long. I think when you die, you stop aging, and you stop being a bastard. I never expected to cross all of Germany and end up in Prussia in January, but the rage and revenge and watching my mother publicly branded a whore at the birth of her sons declared as an act of treason will compel you. His last letter read, "Father was a Frenchman, a black man, and a traitor to Germany, and he is fighting on the wrong side." I awoke to the words, "Who is Albert?" The alien stood looking over me. We were inside a wooden building. I looked around and thought, pilgrimage. The "not a man" said the word as I thought it, with the same inflection. My roasting boar was still roasting. I thought about standing up and walking over and taking a bite. The thing nonchalantly lifted me with one hand by my jacket. The process of lifting me was strange. He stood over me, widened his stance, and placed one hand on the floor, making himself into a tripod. He grabbed my coat and the other hand and then twisted in a strange contortion to turn and push me upward. He then used his hand and legs to rotate around and stand up on 2 feet in defiance of gravity. It wasn't that he was strong, he was supernatural. Again, the word as I thought the word. Again, he spoke the word as I thought the word, then said, "Supernatural, that's a good word." And the ood and good seemed to stretch for a, for too long. Then he said, "Where's the Russian captain?" I had no answer for him. Again he asked, "Where's the Russian captain? You arrived before I did. You saw him. Where is he now?" I answered as best I could. "The Russian? His body is lying in front of the line of tanks. You kicked him with your foot." "No. Where is he? Where is his—" He paused and then continued. "Where is his head?" He spoke the word head in a way a child speaks when learning a new word. His head? I didn't see it. Everyone was dead when I arrived. Yes, I was late. You were late. Everyone is late. Who is Albert? Why are you thinking of Albert when we have important work to accomplish? Why do you keep asking me about Albert? Did you read my journal? Journal? Again, he questioned the word journal. Perhaps German was a new language to him despite his uniform. Then I realized he wasn't wearing a uniform anymore. He had changed clothes, a tailored business suit, vest, and a tie. The horsehair canvas, the horsehair canvas for the suit kept his edges sharp, and it remained unwrinkled, a feat while holding someone prisoner in the middle of a burning village. While continuing to hold me in the air, he asked again, "Where is this journal?" "It's in my pack." I awkwardly pointed to the corner. While holding me up, he turned his head deliberately and slowly to the right. It's possible his head swiveled too far on his shoulders, but by this time, fear consumed me completely, and I'm not sure my memory can be trusted by this point. "A book?" And again, it wasn't a question. Then he placed me on the floor. "Retrieve this journal." I fished the book out of the pack and handed it to him. His eyes opened wide and scanned the Rhineland bastard cover. He said, "You?" Then flipped through the pages. Afterwards, he looked at me, rather, he inspected me. "Terse data, accurate dates, more languages than typical. I will trade you." "Trade me what?" "Your life and your brother's life. Soon you will both die. I will trade you these 2 lives for your service." "I don't work for Germany." He said, "Do I look German?" And his face looked strange again. Its distortion de emphasized the word German in a way that made his face look more the opposite of German. The physical change in his voice and mannerisms were communicating and reinforcing the claim that he wasn't German. He was, in fact, anti German at the moment. No, in reality, he was anti human. The effect was more nauseating than the blended language he spoke earlier, but I managed to keep my feet. I replied, "No, you don't look German." To which he promptly returned to looking like a German businessman. "Good. I will write instructions in the journal, and you will follow these instructions. After you execute them, you will be rewarded, and you and your brother's life. I plan to kill him. Plans are good. That's your choice. This is my gift to you." Okay, what am I supposed to do? I won't help the Germans. I'm not overly fond of Russians either. Their outcome has already been calculated. It's unlikely you could it's unlikely you could help either effort. Encoded in your instructions will be my own plans. They are in alignment, so your success will be my success. And my failure will also be my success, though not pleasant for you. I will write your instructions if you agree. I agree. Do you have an instrument? I handed him my Meisterstück, a prized possession stolen from a dead man in Danzig, uh, some fat fabricant out too late. another victim of the Rhineland bastard. I removed a pot of black ink as well and handed it over. He looked at the fountain pen and pot. Were they quaint curiosities? I thought about filling it with ink for him, but then, after a pause, he opened the ink pot, then deftly pulled the lever filler. He held the pen in his left fingers and thumb rather strangely, as if throwing a dart. Then he lowered his hand to the paper in a precise but mechanical smooth motion. He moved so fast his writing was a blur, and his hand crossed over the page in the sweeping motions of all directions. I wouldn't understand that the resulting motion looked more like a digital printer until later in life, after printers were invented, and I saw one for the first time. Until then, the scanning of his hand looked robotic in a world without robots, which is to say, utterly bizarre. The resulting text looked typed and spaced, as if it came from a steno pool or a telegram office, and not the uncanny hand of my visitor. The only seeming mistake were faint drag lines from the pen. The resulting work contained a list of brief lines of instructions, following the three-column format I created with my previous entries. I wasn't sure if he was mocking me, following the rules I established, or assumed that this was how German writing worked. I assumed it was the last and most unsettling of these options. I read the first few lines, and then I read the first few items on the list, and tears of existential fear came unbidden to my eyes. When I looked up, he was smiling at me, also in tears that mocked my own. The liquid from his eyes streamed oily black. He said, "Now, follow my instructions, Rhineland bastard, and you will have your life." All right, so
Yeah.
that was a long one. Sorry.
That's yeah. I was drawn in, so that's good. And I also figured out that picture in picture
Oh, cool.
by accident.
Good.
Well, are we doing a character? And let me look at the sheet here.
Yeah. So,
Detlef.
yeah.
What was his last name?
Ndaye, I guess, was his Senegalese. That was his father's name.
They changed it.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Why is that not his name initially? Just because he's not.
So yeah, the idea is that he's a Rhineland bastard, which is the Rhineland was shared by French and German. It's a French and German area. And after World War One, the French started putting basically Foreign Legion troops in the Rhineland. And as part of the agreement with the Germans, basically the Germans had to disarm after World War One, and then part of the agreement was that the French were going to sort of keep an eye on them. And the Germans did not like these North African, West African troops being in the Rhineland, and so and then of course because the troops were stationed there, they would end up having children, and there weren't that many of them. I think there were maybe only a few hundred, but it was this like point of contention with the Germans. They, were saying that the Africans were going to take over all of Germany, and they were going to, it was a lot of sort of this racial impurity thing started happening sort of in the beginning before Hitler even was a known quantity, before he was even, sort of part of the political scene. There was anti-black, anti-French, um, sort of German xenophobia that was happening. And so uh, even though the Rhineland bastards they were a small group, they were a political pawn. So there was lots of newspaper articles and things like that about them, as if it was like an epidemic, but it was, just people living their lives. And so I thought that was an interesting idea. And then the concept of the Rhineland bastard, and then Detlev's father being Senegalese, and also being part of the French army, the colonial army, gave me a reason to have him, be absent, because basically at sort of the beginning of World War II, the Senegalese were, basically um, at war and doing maneuvers and supporting the French. And so, and the other thing that's kind of interesting about the colonial army is sort of like that French Foreign Legion thing, where if you are part of the army, you're considered a French citizen. So it was a popular thing to do. So a lot of Africans wanted to be part of the army because they wanted to be French. And then that's why I also wrote, like the Germans hated the French, and so that's why I have the line in there where he was black and his mother's a whore, but the worst thing was that he was French, right? So, and that's sort of a German joke or whatever, right? They hate everything about him, but the worst thing is that he's a French traitor. And so, and this was a really fun chapter to do because I had to do a ton of research to get all of the people and places and stuff to line up, and timelines and everything. And this character in particular, you see him throughout the book. Every one of his chapters is sort of like that, where it's just like some crazy stuff happening, and it's happening to him, and he's sort of in the middle of
it happening across time. Stop me if I'm
Yeah,
saying too much.
I don't think it. I mean, we'll find out actually in the next chapter that I call him sort of a uh, I guess he's sort of a time traveler.
Yeah.
He describes himself as being a time traveler that moves at normal speed.
Yeah.
And so his initial meeting with this weird alien thing, writing out the instructions, is essentially sort of time travel instructions. So this alien has given him uh, these writings, and if he follows the instructions, things will unfold in a certain way. So either that creature has an understanding of what's going to happen in the future, or some other understanding that's beyond what Det is able to understand. And so and so like later on, he sort of becomes reluctant and angry about this whole process, but he's sort of trapped by it. And so he's continues to follow these instructions, but he gets mad because he's like, I guess these time travelers can sort of move faster than the speed of light, and they can appear in all these different places. But schlubs like me have to just sort of sit around waiting for crap to happen, looking at these notes in the book until, so like if they give me a date, I don't get there any faster. I just have to go like sort of move to a new apartment and wait for it to happen. And then when it happens, I have to be in the right place. So he's sort of got these instructions, but he doesn't have the benefit of like jumping through time. He just has to sort of live at normal speed.
And there's an alien standing there, like looking at its watch, like, what the fuck are you?
Yeah,
Come on.
exactly. And so, yeah, and again, I say alien, but I sort of mean that in the sense of not human. I
It's
don't,
alien,
yeah, I don't mean it as like little green men or whatever, but alien in the sense that like an angel or a demon or
little gray man.
yeah, oh yeah, sorry. But I mean it in the sense of a not human. Although I guess it could be alien from like outer space or whatever too, but that's not really my intent.
I bounce my head around like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, is this sort of our character analysis? Are we analyzing Detlev? Is that sort of what we're headed with this?
Well, I guess more his place in the plot, not really him.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
But you could you want to talk about his character for a minute?
Sure. We sort of discussed it a little bit, but he, obviously he's this Rhineland bastard. He's basically a black man living in Germany, but he has these blue eyes that he got from his mother and probably like I think great grandfather or his great no sorry his other grandfather was French. So so black guy, blue eyes, living in Germany. As soon as they see his blue eyes, they know something's up, right? So that's why he has that moment where he says he can't deny his heritage, right? Because people just have to look at him and know it. And so he's been sort of living this life of oppression. But then the sort of the last straw was when this childhood bully came back and was a Gestapo person and tried to take his farm away. And so he just impulsively murdered this guy and then went on a rampage across the country, trying to chase after his brother because all of his revenge sort of manifests in his brother, and his brother, abandoned their family to go join the German army because he was passing. Um, uh, and so that sort of seemed like the largest affront to Detlef that he could think of.
All right. So it was a Sovereign in Hell chapter something and chapter 1.
Yeah, so that was a prologue in chapter 1, and then it gets even crazier in chapter 2. So
Good.
and we'll do that sometime in the future.
Halloween Kindle Vella launch.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. This will be. I've always wanted to do serialized content, and I think that that the Kindle Vella is a really interesting way to do that. And so I'm kind of pumped. I'm also excited about the book itself. And so we've been working on that a bunch lately. And you and I think
Stop you for a second.
Oh yeah.
One gamer to MV says that was good. You know, shit. This is what we do.
That's TJ being sarcastic. TJ's trying to lose us fan.
Trying to lose one viewer.
Yeah. No, thank you for the compliment. That's one of those. It's one of those things where I haven't really released much of this content. I've given TJ I just realized today I sent him a whole bunch of crazy long text messages with parts of chapters and stuff, and I had sort of forgotten about it. And then I was searching for an old text.
Do you need your water?
I probably do need my water. I've yeah, but yeah. So
we're gonna have to meet in the middle of
it. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, I found this really long. It's literally like a book chapter in a text, and I was like, oh man, I forgot about this, and I hadn't written it down.
Did I even thumbs up it or anything?
I don't know. You might have thumbs up. I just need to go back and check. But yeah, TJ, it was in this text thread, and I had forgotten to put it in my notes. So I was like, oh damn, I'm glad I found it. So I copied and pasted it back in my notes.
Because I changed my number. You know, I'm one of those people.
Oh yeah, he had changed his number. I forgot that it was in there. But yeah, so anyway, so Halloween, super excited about it. Super excited about the serial launch for Cardinal Point. I think that this is one of those sort of fictional things where TJ was like, "Hey, I got this idea," and I was like, "Is there anything new we can do with that? I don't really know." And then we started talking about it, and I got super excited about it. So mostly I think it was when he said, "I want to do Goosebumps for adults." And then when he said that, I was like, okay, so it's we're gonna take kind of the trope, but then what happens if you go really deep and go really horrible and make it actually scary as opposed to Goosebumps, which is not scary at all.
Well, the initial idea is kind of all around this carousel with this white horse that's possessed, and that's just one of those sort of campy ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how can we we figured out how to do a lot more with that.
Yeah. So it's like, you have what is it, Christine?
Yeah.
And you're you get to this thing where it's sort of unbelievable, and you're like, okay, the guy's just going to get crushed. He's just going to sit there in the seat as the seat moves and not escape and not be crushed by this car seat or whatever. Right. So this sort of ridiculous thing. And so we've got this sort of this ridiculous element where it's, I don't know, a possessed horse or whatever, but that's just sort of the intro into all the weirdness.
That just gets us that cover. That's
yeah.
What the hell is this?
What do you mean? Oh yeah, where you say what the hell is this when you look at it?
Yeah, with Christine, it's a fucking car.
Yeah,
that's stupid. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah. Now I will say the poster for Christine and sort of the look and all that stuff is really cool, right? We like to rag on Stephen King a lot, but I don't think we do it because it's bad. We do it because he's literally the king, right? He's done all this stuff, and so us being decades after Stephen King, we've got to come up with things that we think are cool. And so the best way to do that is to make fun of the master. And then
I mean, I grew up on Stephen King.
Yeah, no, I love Stephen
Mother
King.
And grandma, yeah,
I
don't like the guy that much, but his writing is something I've read.
I don't try not to keep up with anybody's politics, but I do. There are a lot of Stephen King. There's a lot of stuff I haven't read by Stephen King, but there are some. I mean, he's got some really top notch stuff. So
Yeah.
that's where it comes from. But Stephen King likes to do spooky stuff, so I think it's good to sort of talk about him in Halloween because if we're going for Halloween weekend, we want to sort of be in that spooky genre, and this is definitely sort of Goosebumps, Stephen King. Cardinal Point is definitely sort of in that genre.
Yeah. HP, Stephen King,
Yeah.
Goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Lovecraftians, but that sort of existential cosmic horror stuff, all the stuff of nightmares. So yeah, so I'm super excited about it. We're gonna launch. I think it takes a little while for Vella to catch up, like 72 hours or something like that.
Team
Oh yeah,
Team Craftable. Yes, you are getting a Halloween special episode where wait, did we even get to that yet?
we haven't talked to it yet.
Wait, hold
Yeah,
on a minute.
yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute.
There's a
But yeah,
comment.
so we get to, so Vela is really cool. But I think it takes like 72 hours for it to launch. So we're basically going to post it today, and then somewhere between now and Friday, it should be live, and so you can read those first chapters, and then we'll update it weekly. I don't know what our update schedule is going to be, if it's going to be like Mondays or whatever, but we'll figure that out, and then that'll just be something that we keep tabs on as we move forward with the show.
Well, 1, 2, and 3 will be up by Friday,
Yes.
and then 4 on Tuesday, and we'll try to keep it up every Tuesday.
Yeah, and then we'll probably continue to read from it. Is that right? Or do we have to sort of stop?
As much as we I'm going to double check that. I think as long as we don't do like every other one or
Yeah,
something like that.
we definitely can't release the whole book because Vela doesn't want it to exist in any other format.
Yeah, it can't be free anywhere else.
Yeah. So, but I think we can give out promotional pieces. So that's what I mean. I think that's at least that's what I'm considering.
Kind of what this is. Yeah.
So you won't get the whole read until the book's done, and then we'll probably release an audiobook or something like that. But yeah, so super excited about that. And then do we want to keep talking about Halloween stuff?
Yes.
So so Friday will be the launch. We're going to be posting lots of like little stuff, I think. So like little shorts and things like that, and little promos and stuff. And then we're going to do a Halloween vidcast on Tuesday on Halloween itself. So it'll be the same time. So it'll be in the afternoon. It won't be like Halloween night. Yeah. But and then we're going to read the next Cardinal Point chapter. And we're going to do some character analysis of Cardinal Point characters. And then I don't know, maybe TJ and I will be wearing costumes.
If I have one.
Or we'll both be dressed as serial killers.
Hulk Krogan.
What? Nice.
Will Sasso, the guy from SNL or Mad TV.
Yeah.
He's got this podcast now. He's always been good at like doing Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin and Jesse Ventura. And they have like a podcast called Dudesy where their AI kind of like plans it for them.
Yeah.
And it was like, in this episode, Dudesy told me to be Hulk Krogan, so I'm Hulk Hogan and the Crow.
Nice.
Me and Malia were watching that, and I'm like, that's a good Halloween costume.
Pretty genius. Yeah. So yeah, you sent me. Is that where you sent me the Dudesy?
The Tom Hanks stuff.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Which kind of leads us into our next subject here. I sent you that because we were I think texting a little bit about AI.
Yeah.
And how some of these people are using it to write books. It was like, what the hell was it? Like, I don't know, some ridiculous thing. Like, well, that's how AI writes.
Yeah.
Just off the wall shit. That's not a real story.
Yeah. And it has a lot of incongruity and discontinuity, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets really, and it's also really like, it's also really campy. Like for whatever reason, especially like ChatGPT, because it doesn't want to write about anybody being harmed. So like there have been a couple of times where I was like, okay, what if you had this like sci-fi character and he had like this weapon that would like kill people, and he's like, but then he also has this magical ray that when he shoots people, it heals them and they don't die and they live happily ever after. And you're like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like, is it possible to have some character?
That's not what the fuck we're doing here.
Yeah,
Fiction.
yeah, can the character be antagonistic in any way? No, no, everybody has to live happily ever after. And
Yeah.
you're like, what is going on? And then it also like does weird stuff where it sort of loses the thread and
Oh
it
yeah.
goes off,
Oh yeah.
on a tangent. So I feel that I don't know if there's anybody that's publishing a book right now using AI, like maybe eventually in the future it might be something that you could do. But if you're using AI right now, you're probably working harder at trying to get AI to give you something that's readable
Yeah.
than if you just wrote it yourself.
You can easily get to a point where you can do 2,000 words in an hour, probably a lot more.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there dicking around with this AI trying to get it. And if you're releasing a bunch of stuff, I don't think these people are reading it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's becoming a problem in KDP where it's like readers are like not liking this stuff. Because if you need to like just try to look up Dudesy Uncle Bus, where it's like it's like this script written by an AI and it's like a Tom Cruise voice.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, it's your uncle. I'm not on the bus. I am the bus. And we have to do a race with the devil or I can get my body back. And if I lose, everybody on earth becomes a bus.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Okay. So yeah. So it's sort of the
it's always something with writing a 7-pointed star, something with the devil, something with a ritual with this AI shit.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's their stuff, but it's
So
like always.
it's the writing version of AI's version of hands.
Yeah.
Like why does it have 80 fingers? Like yeah. So yeah. So obviously as writers, we can't be super big fans of AI. But I think AI has a place in the world. I
Oh,
think that AI has a place in writing.
I think we
But
are actually both fans of AI, actually.
yeah.
Just how we use it is more planning and kind of scheduling.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But to me, the fun of writing is doing the writing. I don't want to read the story that AI wrote for me. That just seems terrible and boring. And because the engaging your imagination and then communicating that imagination to other people is the whole point of writing. And
Yeah.
I think when people I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make money. So they're trying to commoditize this thing. And they think the easy way is that the AI will write the story and they can publish it. But yeah, so obviously that seems like that's going to get a little bit of backlash. And then I think one of the reasons that we are reading, I feel that we're reading live is to show people that this is real humans doing this stuff, right? And in the same way where you see like artists draw things in front of the camera, right? And so I think that becomes more important to society, and it becomes a way of communicating the work that you put into something. And I feel like other humans appreciate that craftsmanship.
Yeah, and I don't want to live in a world where we got to have a sticker on a book cover that says 100% human written, and I don't want to live in a world where these things are like, well, let's get our news and our short stories from a fucking AI, and a real book is something like a boutique thing.
Yeah,
that now costs 100 times more. Just like a coffee at Honest. Fucking love you guys, and it's like I don't want to live in that world.
Yeah,
it's like only lawyers' sons can sit home and write a fucking book.
Yeah.
I want to,
And I don't think anybody really does. I mean, I think there are people that want to make money and they're doing it from the standpoint of like, how do I make money in this world? And I guess they don't want to put in the time to do the writing, or maybe they want to be writers, but they just don't know how or something I don't know, whatever. I'm not trying to defend people that are abusing AI, but I can sort of see where money is the driver, but people like good writing, and at least currently AI is not capable of producing good writing. It's able to produce sort of convincing conversational tones, and it's able to produce sort of convincing themes and stuff, but it's just not there. Once you sort of scratch the surface, there's just there's not enough substance. And so I have no doubt there will be in the future, but I don't think we're there now. So
there might be some kind of app now. I see on Instagram some ads for this app thing that I guess a lot of people are buying. Maybe that can write some, but you can still tell.
Yes.
And maybe as a research assistant, it's almost there.
Yeah.
And you got to like triple check. And as like a kind of scheduler, planner, something to like help you plot out a structure,
Yeah.
or even like research and figure out like what kind of character you want in the thing,
Yeah.
or like drop some tropes in there and say like what can we do with these tropes and these genres. It can help with that, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
pure writing, no.
Yes. So I think it can do like organizational tasks. I've
Yeah.
seen that happen. And uh, it can sort of it can also help you with like summaries and things like that if you already have a piece
Oh
of
yeah,
content written.
I've used it for summaries and
Yeah,
pretty good.
I almost always have to rewrite the summary, but at least it sort of condenses the words, efficiently. And so I'll do that where like if I'm trying to describe a chapter and I like sometimes after writing the chapter, if I were to try and describe it, the description would be as big as the chapter, and so I have a hard time like editing down. And so having it make some choices on editing is helpful because it's almost like getting past a writer's block
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
But then it's still a lot of times it sort of misses the soul of what you're trying to do, so you have to go back in and do a little bit of editing. So anyway, that's kind of the murky depths of using AI or whatever. I will say I did use AI to write a web page, like create the HTML and CSS and JavaScript of a web page,
Yeah.
and it did a pretty good job. Like it created a functional web page that like had animation and all this other stuff on it. However, it took me like 2 days. Like it would have been faster. Like I used to work on web pages and stuff, and so I used to do that for a living. It probably would have been faster for me to just write it from scratch. And I thought, oh well, maybe you know the software can do a better job. It got results really quickly, but then like honing in those results and like making little changes became very hard because it would sort of forget what it was doing, and it would clobber previous decisions that you made and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And but I will say if anybody's in trouble before the writers, it's going to be the people that are like writing web pages.
Yeah. Because maybe
Um,
they can deliver something that hasn't been uh, picked or niched down on, or whatever the word is.
yeah,
And then they'd be like, what the fuck is this? Well, you didn't pay for that.
yeah,
You paid for the broad functional thing, not
yeah.
the little.
And I can see a lot of people, if once it starts getting really successful, like now it will be democratizing. I can see a lot of people making their own web pages using ChatGPT.
New
Um,
GeoCities.
but there somebody that whoever has that job, which I don't know if there might not be that many in the US. It might be people in India that are making web pages now, but whoever has that job is going to have a harder time, although they'll probably just use ChatGPT or whatever as well. So I don't know, maybe it just becomes part of the ecosystem, who knows.
Yeah. But things have changed so many times, and everybody, for the most part, seems to be fine. It's like as different as it is the same, I think.
Yeah, 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 I do. I mean, I agree with the democratizing part of it. I just don't agree with the erasure of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, the democratization of these things are like, could we have had a sort of radio video show in the 90s? I don't think so.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, digital photography and videography replaces all the people that worked at Kodak.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff. So yeah, progress is progress. Things move forward.
Except when you have a 4-year-old that takes $20 of fucking Polaroids of their little feet and their little nails, the little press on nails she has now,
Mhm.
unicorns and stuff on them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, $20.
Save every single one of them.
Yeah,
You
I
got
do.
you got 20 of them. Yeah, it's good. No,
Oh, I have a couple hundred
of her photos that she took.
her on the toilet, her belly, because she found out the perspective and made her stomach real big.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
a blast. Worth the money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I should probably get a Polaroid. Okay, I think we're way off track. I don't really
Oh.
know. Like, do we
We got-
cover all of our topics?
This list here says we got one more item.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. A big one too. Are we ready to move on? Talk about
Yes.
it? Okay. All right. So I'm really excited about this. This is something that TJ has sort of sprung on me, maybe like in May or something. It was several months ago,
Yeah.
and he sort of mentioned it, and then he sent me an audio clip, and it had like music, and it was him like talking, and
Just a cold read.
yeah, and just he had like read something, and it was basically a podcast. And I was like, okay, dude, like, can I hear the rest of the show? And it was like a preview of like sort of what he was going to talk about. And he was like, no, that's all I got so far. And then he like sent me this giant list of like episodes of all the episodes that he wants to do. So fast forward to now, we're starting to do streaming. We've been writing for a long time. I've been telling him he should do this podcast. And now I think what we're going to do is essentially it is going to be a podcast vidcast, but I think we're going to do the recording. We're going to stream the recording of it,
Yeah.
and I think it's pretty cool. So I guess we were so it's basically it's true crime and the occult, right? So
Yes.
so people that
I'm
no, go
go.
for it. Oh,
I'm I have an idea that uh all occult murders and kind of uh, cults and all those serial killers was what I was trying to think of.
yeah.
Are all like influenced by demons, and so this is going to be me kind of putting those two together, like going through the demonology, going through the crime, and kind of saying like, well, this demon has this sort of influence on people. It is known. I mean,
So get
yeah,
what was the example? Was it Bacchus or
Bacchus is in a lot of them,
yeah.
and
That's sort of the party and drink and murder
yeah, party, drink, kill.
excess. Okay, yeah.
Bacchus, Dionysus, kind of
Yeah.
a lot of these gods, demons, and demigods and stuff. They kind of overlap too,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the idea. Just like going over their influence, and I sort of got the idea from God James. No, I forgot the guy's name. I'll I'll get that by the time we get the new show where I got the idea where he kind
Okay.
of goes over the riots of, and I forgot that name too. So I have all this. You can't see. I have all this stuff here, so I don't have like a laptop to like
Oh yeah.
check myself. So that's what you'll kind of be doing on the show. Just kinda-
Yeah. So I think the idea is I would be kind of the guy in the chair, like sort of looking up stuff, doing research,
Yeah.
hitting you with quizzes or whatever, and then TJ will kind of be uh, pulling the needle through, threading the needle or whatever on the story. And I think what we're talking about, it's going to be called Unpunished, and it's true crime and the occult. So, well, at least that's what we talked about today is the title.
Yeah.
The idea on, sort of that no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing. But the idea is that like these occult followers, because of their, I guess their demonic, uh, I guess their demonic inspiration, how could God allow them to commit these crimes and go unpunished, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Is sort of where that title came from. So yeah, so I think it'll be cool because we'll talk about mythology and demons and all that stuff, and then tie it to real true crime, which I think is kind of cool. Like uh, I have I don't really listen to true crime. I like the idea of it, but I'm not into it. I know a lot of people that are. I have a lot of friends that are into it, but I'm actually really into like demonology and just sort of weird stuff. And it's actually hard. There's a couple of podcasts out there, but they sort of go like the ghost hunters route with their
Yeah.
demonology thing.
What was that?
Yeah,
Did you hear
exactly.
that?
Yeah, and
It totally moved.
and to me, that's not as interesting as um the history of that kind of stuff. I'm not looking for, you know, I'm not looking for jump scares in my demonology
Yeah.
podcast or vidcast or whatever. I'm looking for what's the weird stuff that people wrote down in a book. and
Yeah.
what's the motivation for these demons and devils and whatever,
Like
kind
if
of thing.
people believe
Yeah,
these things
yeah,
that they're doing.
yeah, and it's yeah, and that's the thing. Like I don't even necessarily believe in a lot of this stuff, but it is all super interesting to me. And then especially the idea if you tie it back to our true crime. Um, uh, and I think there are a lot of instances where where religion and crime kind of mix, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me, right? Like the David Koresh's of the world, and
Yeah.
the what's the Heaven's Gate, right? Like a bunch of
Heaven's Gate.
people decide to wear Nike sneakers and all kill themselves, on the
Yeah.
same night, right? It's all just it's totally crazy.
And that's kind of getting into what we're going to be talking about with the first episode. Guy named Ervil LeBaron, who had I guess, could you say it's a separatist Mormon sort of cult?
Yeah, so I only know what you sent me. I had never even heard of this guy. But first off, his name's Ervil, which basically looks like the word evil.
I've said it evil so many times, and I'm
Yeah,
probably going to do it on the show too.
yeah.
Evil LeBaron, which
And so
sure,
you look at it, and then you think about this guy, and then you think about sort of the context, and you're like, okay, how did we not know
yeah,
that he was the bad guy, right? It's sort of like if somebody real like was really named Darth Vader walks in the room, like oh yeah, he's the bad guy, right? So
yeah, D Vader,
mhm.
Derek Ark Vader.
Yeah. So so anyway, yeah, I'm super excited about this new project. I think we're gonna stream it, and then the podcast will get a regular release on Mondays, I think is what we're talking about.
Yeah, Monday vidcast. I guess we're doing this Friday,
Yeah.
or the stream we'll
Oh
be
yeah.
doing Friday, and then we'll officially release it Mondays at 9 or 10. If
Yeah.
anybody can tell us in the chats, like what if you want this and what time you'd like it. I mean, we're doing it anyway, but
Yeah.
if you can
But
help,
yeah, I mean, no, I mean, we're willing to change formats and times and things like that for what people want. But the goal for streaming is to actually streamline the process. The reason I want to stream it is because I think it actually makes it easier. Then we just take the stream and then cut it up and turn it into a podcast slash vidcast, which I don't know. I feel like that's an easier way to go than sort of
yeah,
the way that I used to do podcasts and vidcasts. And then it's a lot easier to do that kind of stuff now too. There's a lot of tools that sort of geared up for doing
yeah.
um, podcasts and vidcasts anyway. So
It'd just be nice if it was in 4K. That's all.
oh yeah, we could probably make it happen if I guess. Well, no, because then we'd have to pull it straight from the cameras.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's something like this that does it in 4K.
When we hit 1 million subscribers, we'll hire somebody to go back and pull all the 4K footage and re-edit all the podcasts and vidcasts with camera originals.
So then I should have been pushing record on
Except
the
for the
camera.
first 2 episodes, because we
And this one.
and this one, first 3 episodes. No, I don't think it's important. I mean, for this content, I think 1080 is fine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. This is coming from somebody that has a 8K camera, so
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's a way.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So yeah, so that's what we got coming up. Unpunished. Are we doing it this Friday?
I
Or
thought that was
next
kind of going to be the Raw live stream was maybe going to be part of the Hollow weekend.
Okay.
And also, if we're releasing it on Monday, yeah, it would kind of still fall.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's the goal. If you show up to the channel and we're not here, then something happened. But
But we'll shoot for 1:30.
Yeah.
Same time.
And then so got a lot of stuff coming up. Still going to be writing, still going to be reading. And then, but yeah, we want to get out there and produce some more content. We launched on Facebook. We're on Twitter now.
Yeah.
We're on Kick. We're on YouTube, of course, which is sort of our hub.
We'll be on Rumble.
Yeah, we'll be on Rumble, but I think Rumble requires us to get some more subscribers. But we'll be uploading the videos there, and then eventually we'll live stream on Rumble. So that's I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has a happy Halloween.
Well,
and
before we
oh yeah, sorry.
officially end, I guess there's 2 questions
Okay.
from Team Craftable. Yes, you'll be getting a Halloween special episode Tuesday, 1:30.
Yeah.
Just like the regular stream.
Yeah.
Might be a little shorter, but it'll definitely be something.
Yeah, probably definitely shorter than today, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, today's we were kind of on top of things today.
Yeah.
We always mean to start at 1:30, but we often don't. And again, Team Craftable, this is just a comment. I've been here 3 times in a row and ate the same ice cream flavor in those 3 times. Well, keep up the ritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we need the luck.
Oh, I just realized I'm not wearing my subluminous shirt. Dang.
Can we see it? I guess we can't. Barely see
No, I'm wearing a black shirt, just not.
it. I always wear mine, but I don't think it can be seen.
Can't see the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually try and position it, but I'm wearing an Adidas shirt, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm wearing my subluminous. I'm not going to say that. Ring on something.
You can find them in our what if we only had a store, you could find them in our store.
We can
link below, but not really.
We can make a store if you guys want.
It's true.
Mugs and t-shirts and bags and stickers.
When we get to 100 subscribers.
Are we already? Well, not on. We're almost there on Facebook.
Yeah, it's true. We are. Yeah. So if you we're trying to be on all the stuff. So whatever your preferred social media is,
yeah,
look us up. I think Twitter is Subluminous Pub. Kick is kick.com/subluminous. YouTube is obviously here on Dead Workers Party.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember. I think did I say Twitch? Do we have Twitch?
We don't have Twitch yet.
Don't have Twitch yet. Okay.
But we just want to be wherever you are, because signing up for this stuff sucks.
Yeah.
And we're willing to do it so you don't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the multi-streamer, I think Restream, I think actually works pretty good. So when we hit 5 streams for Restream, if we decide that we need to go up to 10 or whatever, we'll just upgrade the account and go up to the next thing. But it seems like we're growing. It seems like, I mean, even since the first episode, we're getting more clicks every week, and people are finding the video, and hopefully everybody's like sharing and enjoying what they're seeing and sharing it with other people. So keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, please do. And we'll let you know when stuff's up for pre-order or to read somewhere. We'll always let you know.
And hopefully next week I'll have new glasses, or find my glasses that I lost.
Yeah, you look good though.
Thanks.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Happy Halloween weekend. See y'all at the next stream.
Friday.